background, funny story to the conversation and why I asked if you'd come today on the Jump Off the Dock podcast to let us have a conversation was we was at the beach together, about a month ago now, I guess. Spending a little family time together, and McKenna, my niece, his daughter, was in a pageant down there, and there's not a lot of times with the boys and with McKenna and Gavin that we just get to take some time and just spend time together, and so we had that opportunity, and coming off the beach from the football game, of which I'm still feeling the effects of at 42. Daniel, your mind at 42, Daniel, your mind says, "Hey, you go do this," and your body says you're an idiot.
You realize I'm 44, right?
Well, I'm trying to make you feel young.
I'm not. We talked about that last time. We are not young.
So anyway, in that conversation, right, coming off the beach, you and I were standing. You had a call actually with somebody, some district or something, I think, and you and I were having that conversation, and through the lens and the route that God is, the path and the lane that He has now drawn me into of leadership, and what's that look like, and how do we do it well, and how do we create through a servant's lens, right? How do we create leadership opportunities and guide people toward how to lead through that lens, right? And then you just said, as Armor One would try to take a servant's approach to helping people be proactive, and you're talking about kings and castles versus prisons. So let's talk about that a little bit. The conversation that we struck up in Charleston around that was you made this comment that one of the things that you're starting to really research and churn on based on your experience and what you're seeing, not just through the school district locally, but now that you went to work for Armor One, was this idea and thought of a disposable society, right? And as we talked about that, we were brainstorming for about 30 minutes in a conversation that probably could have lasted a half a day. But so the people who are listening right now, talk about, like, when you say disposable society, like, through your experience, like, what did you mean? Because there's a piece on the website leadingimpact.org that we kind of co-wrote. I asked you to write a blog or an article kind of as the gist of what you were talking about, and then I added some commentary to it at the end. But so talk to the listeners a little bit about when we say disposable society, or when you came to me with disposable society, what are you talking about?
Well, I'll start. I think two big key factors that are players in this realm of what is a disposable society and mindset are Dr. Renee Brown and Dr. Robert Putnam. And I got it right here. Putnam, I really truly think he says it best when it comes to a disposable society. And he says our social capital. So what is social capital? How we invest in each other.
Yeah.
Right. How do we invest in each other? What do I do for you? What do you do for me? Not from an aspect of material things, but can I call you and lean on you? Will you hold me accountable? If I'm doing something I'm not supposed to do, is our social capital invested and grown enough for you to call me and say, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. How is that going to affect you? How's that going to affect your family? How's that going to affect your kids? So social capital. The networks, the norms, and the trust, all that starting to disintegrate right around us is starting to disintegrate. So when we talk about disposable society, I try to think about why. Why is it disposing, right? Why is it becoming a disposable society?
Because in our conversation, when we were talking about the things that were happening, now just 5 days ago with Minnesota happening, right? We were talking about, like, what's the key root, right? Because you and I both in leadership roles that we've served in and that God has blessed us in, we've understood that when we look at a problem, you got to keep peeling the onion until you find out what's the key root cause of what's the true story, right? And so in the things in the realm that you're talking about, I think you hit on the head a little while ago when you said a lot of times when y'all were going in schools, a lot of people seen y'all always dealing with the bad and not the good, but y'all were trying to flip that perspective. Is dig into the key root cause of what is causing all this going on, right? Because that's kind of what you lived in every day. And so as you're digging into that, this is kind of where this kind of started evolving and coming to the top, right? Servicing that.
So
seemed to
when
be
we started, we
started
doing research as Armored One, and started looking at went right around COVID. has been a huge uptick in school shootings. Now, a school shooting is different than an active shooter, right? School shooting could be gang on gang. It could be, hey, you stole my boyfriend. Right? Those domestic disputes, those things where there's a targeted attack or a targeted act, right? So totally difference. Same realm, same world, but difference in aspect. But there's been an uptick in school shootings and acts of violence. And so I really tried to start figuring out, okay, why in the world are kids these days thinking that is the out? Right. That's what I need to do, right? And one thing that I keep thinking about is, why has modern society today, why have we got to a point where relationships, our communication, our values, everything that we would consider character traits? What do we do in the dark? What do we do behind closed doors? What do we do when nobody's looking? All those things are starting to become expendable. We're thinking it's okay that those things that should be dearest to us are now expendable. We don't care about those things anymore.
So in the blog or in the article that you wrote that I kind of provided some commentary on, that I posted on leadingimpact.org is one of the pieces. You say this, right? You make and I highlighted it because I really want to make sure that I brought it up in our conversation. You said, this is exactly why a shift in mindsets is necessary. I like to think of it bringing back the front porch mentality, right? You go on to say that there was a time when neighbors sat outside, talked face to face, and simply built trust by showing up, right? So like I'm getting goosebumps just reading that, right? So when you think about what we said in this piece, just what you said in that article about having a front porch mentality and by showing up, one, what did you really mean? Like, what are you saying there? And two, why do you think that's starting to disintegrate?
I really think it goes back to the generation before this, the one we currently are in, because we talk about disposable mindsets in society. We'll get to the front porch here in a minute. I really try to dive into and say, do kids think they're disposable at this point? Does the current generation think they're disposable for things their moms and dads, their generation, have done, right? Because we're at a point in time in our lives where parents of the current generation are running around trying to make a living. They have focused their means on things that maybe not necessarily are worth value. A lot more split homes. So is mom and dad running around, not necessarily in a negative way, but are they chasing companionship? Are they chasing another spouse? And do our current generation only see mom and dad when mom and dad are like, well, why didn't you make good on this test? Why did you get cut from the baseball team? Why did you get cut from the football team? Why is this teacher calling me? And that interaction between the generations, it's negative, right? And now they start to think, well, anytime I have interaction with my mom or dad, it's negative. Let's flip it. So they do make the football team, okay? They do make a really good grade in this class. They pass that AP class. And then mom and dad, same set of parents, oh, man, that's great. That's great. Look what you've done. That's great, right? So now they start to relate those positive interactions with mom and dad with things that they've accomplished.
Yeah.
The stars. If I can do this or I can achieve this, I'm going to have a positive interaction with my mom and my dad.
Things that are really in the moment, it's attainable but not sustainable.
That's right. Yeah. And so what happens? Well, when we was just talking about our values disintegrating, okay? Social media and technology has put us to a point where we can be a keyboard warrior, and we do not have to worry about tone. We don't have to worry about emotion. We don't have to worry about interaction or consequences, right? we can use social media and we can then step on somebody's back, stab somebody in the back, or hurt someone to get to a point where I can have a positive interaction with my parents, because now I can be like, look, I'm on social media and I've done this. I'm on social media, I've done this. Look, Mom, I'm on this video. Look, Mom, I'm on this TikTok. Look, Dad, I'm on this hype video for this sports team. And it doesn't matter who we step on or how we get there, as long as I can get there. Why? Because that's when I have a positive interaction with Mom and Dad. And so talking about the front porch mentality is, we need to get back to a place where we're investing in social capital, like Putnam said. We get to a place where I'm sitting across from you and I can read your emotions.
Right.
I can see how sincere you are, how hurt you are, how excited you are, how happy you are, right? And it is a lot harder for me to downgrade or be negative when I'm across from somebody and I've got to answer to that, right? A simple question I tell people all the time. If someone is aggravated or mad at you, right, the simplest question that you can ask is, why? Why? Because when I was an SRO and I was in schools as security and law enforcement both, when we had issues with students, a lot of times if we had issues between a parent and a teacher, and it got to the point where we were intervening, I would answer, or I'd ask the simple question of, why? Why are you two fighting? Why are you so upset with this educator? And 7 or 8 out of 10 times, that question never could be answered. Never could be answered. But I was big belly badass because I was behind an email. I was behind a text message. I was behind a social media post. I was behind a Facebook post, right? A lot easy. Why? Why are y'all fighting? I don't know.
We had that conversation. It's funny you bring that up, because when we were talking about in episode 1, Dan, you remember last week, we talked a little bit about how when people get offended, it's because their own personal agendas are interrupted, right? But when you ask them, remember when you ask them, when you boil down to it, hey, what's really going on? They can't tell you why.
Yeah.
Because they're blinded to their own personal agenda, right? You know, I had the opportunity to speak at church, back in June, and one of the things we talked about was sin blinds us.
Yeah.
Right. And wants to keep us blind to what's really going on. And so we're human, we're broke, right? And so when we look in the mirror, we see ourselves one way, even though our families, our friends, our brothers, whether they be flesh and blood or brothers in Christ or whoever, when they come to us and they say to us, hey, as an accountability, it's like Nathan, right? Nathan to David, right? When that Nathan shows up in our life and says, hey, I don't know if this is quite right, we get butt hurt about it, right? Because our personal agendas, we don't realize it's our personal agenda, but it's our ego, right? Humility ultimately is the driving force behind a lot, right? It's the ego. And so when you talk about that and the relationship of how do we create impact of relational social capital, right? I think that's how you put it, right? Social capital. Why is that? Like, I remember going to Mom and Pa Black's, right? And talking about sitting on the front porch. I remember going to Mom and Pa Black's, who really was not our flesh and blood grandma and grandpa. And it kind of brings me to tears a little bit to think about it. But going and sitting under their carport, right, which was their front porch, and them bringing us into them canning tomatoes, right? And for us at the time, it looked like canning tomatoes, right? It was like, oh my gosh, here's 40 pounds of tomatoes in these huge tubs. But the conversations that we had with them around canning tomatoes, right? I'm reminded of that Brett Eldredge song, right? Sunday Drive is, I listen to it sometimes with my sister. It's such a reminder of that. Their influence and intentionality, right, to bring us in and show us and to teach us and to guide us and to love us. We talked about that too last week, about how love and truth. How do you present truth and love, right? And the fact that love without truth is fantasy and truth without love is condemnation, right? And how much Ma and Pa for us what we thought was canned tomatoes was sitting on this front porch, right? And so, talk to me a little bit about how when you're seeing this stuff starting to deteriorate, right? And we see it everywhere now, right? With social media and news and all over the place. Talk to me a little bit about. I'll tell the listeners a little bit about how when you starting to talk, you're saying, hey, we're starting to see this deteriorate, right? And what you do, you see it every day. What do you think ultimately is the answer? Like, how do we step in as men of faith, and you know, how do we step into that as somebody who's like, I think a lot of times the first step toward an answer, or the first step toward moving toward an answer, right, is recognition, which you've brought that up, right, when we were in Charleston, and when you started talking about this idea, I was really intrigued. And you've done your research behind it. So what do you think, what's the step? Like, what's the step to step in and to stop the deterioration and to help guide others toward stopping the disposable aspect of it?
I think that, I think Albert Einstein hit the nail on the head when he said you can't fix your problems and your thinking by continuing to do the same thing, basically. You know, and I think what we have to do is take a step back and look and evaluate ourselves and say, hey, you know, I can't figure out why my kids are doing this. The reason they're doing it is because you did it.
Yeah.
Right? And let's see, I want that exact quote. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we use to create them, is what Einstein said. So, if we want to be impactful on current students, current kids, current generation, then we might have to look ourselves in the mirror and change our own thinking. Get rid of these.
He's holding his cell phone up, by the way, of those of you that are listening.
Get rid of these dad-blasted things and spend some intentional time with each other building that social well. Like, great time, dinner time. Quit the fast food. Even if you have to have fast food, I understand sometimes that's convenient. Just take it home, sit around the table.
Yeah.
Talk about the day, right? Talk about the good, talk about the bad. Let your kids know that you're there not just for when good things happen. You're there for when bad things happen. You're there to help them over the hurdles. Teach them how to overcome adversity. Teach them that adversity is a good thing. Not making the football team is a good thing, right? Not being Sally's friend potentially could be a good thing, right? Not having 1 million clicks on TikTok could be a good thing. Because let me tell you something. I don't care what you put on these things and how many times you try to delete it. It is forever there. And when you go from a 14-year-old girl or boy to a 25, 26-year-old man, and you're interviewing for that job that you've all so longed and earned for, and then they're going to bring up, right? And they're going to say, I'm sorry, but we can't hire you. It's going to come back.
Yeah.
It's going to come back. And I really feel like in the educational world, like there's things, you know, I talk to educators all the time, and I tell them, unfortunately, it's a place where in America, kids spend in their earlier years more time at school than they do at home. And unfortunately, we've gotten to a place where educators now have to be mom and dad and counselors, right? And so to me, there's things that they can do in a school setting, unfortunately, like morning huddles, Bible studies, after school clubs, during school clubs, right, that they can make an intentional effort to get rid of these, have conversations, build relationships, and let kids know what it feels like to be intentionally learned and cared for, and what does a true relationship, even if there's accountability involved, what does it feel like, right? And not be so quick to jump to a negative feeling or a negative connotation because this person says, hey, you shouldn't be doing that, right? And I truly feel like that there's a mental health crisis. I used to be very hard-nosed on that topic, very hard-nosed on that topic. I used to feel like,
Weakness, it was weakness, right? Because we grew up with old school, right?
You spank your butt, you spank your kids, and whip your kids, and if they ain't doing right, you just keep whooping them, and that's changed.
Yeah,
it's changed. And when I went and spoke in West Virginia a couple of weeks ago, it was in a breakout session. We were discussing this topic, disposable society and disposable mindset. I told them, and I was just transparent and open, and said, I have even had to change my philosophy when it comes to parenting and coaching varsity football, because this generation is different, and just being hard-nosed, old school,
the way we grew up, right?
It sometimes just ain't going to work. And I'll tell you, one reason I think we have that problem is because when we were in school, even probably a couple years younger than this, when they were in school, when things happened negatively at school, you were being bullied, you had a bad grade, you didn't win the football game, you got cut from the baseball team, all those things you could get away from.
Yeah.
You could get away from
and when you say get away, you mean in a social capital aspect, like you were talking about. Like we had friends in the mall, go in the mall, go in the movies, because cell phones, technology, things like that was in abundance at that moment.
Right. We get home, friends are at the house, we shooting basketball, right, or WWFing each other out in the front yard, clotheslining each other, laughing, cutting up, talking.
Right.
Relationships, face to face, eyes to eyes, talking about life in general. And none of that negative was there. You could escape it. You could get rid of it. On the weekends, you didn't see it for 3 days. Right now,
because I wasn't posted on social media all over the place. Yeah.
Now kids cannot get away. Cannot get away from it. If they don't make the team, somebody's busting their balls on social media. You block that person, they make a new account. They're still busting your balls on social media. You've got these barstool websites now that are taking players' sisters and girlfriends and doing sexual-oriented posts about how this is what we're going to do to you. You cannot get away. You cannot get away from it. And so I think that's one reason we have a mental health crisis, because kids truly feel like, if I don't fit in, or if I don't get clicks, or if I don't do this, then coupled with the disposable mindset and the disposable society they're getting at home, is it really even worth?
Yeah.
Is it worth it?
Right.
Is it worth it? If I don't like the way this phone works, I'm going to go get a new one. If my refrigerator breaks, I'm just going to get a new one. If the car's running rough and it's pulling to the right, well, you know what? I'll just trade it in. I'll get a new one. Are kids feeling the same way? Are kids feeling like, you know what? If I don't succeed at this, or if I'm continuing to get bullied at school, is it me?
Right.
And
then they started having his mindsets of, is it worth even being here?
Is it worth even be here? Yeah. They'll just get a new one. When I say that, I'm not talking about necessarily a new kid, but are they going to get something else that takes up their time?
Yeah.
Is there something new that would be better than me?
A new shiny toy.
Is there going to be something better than me that they could fill their time with? Is there going to be something better than me that would make them happy? Is there going to be something better than me that they would be proud of? Right? Disposable society.
Do you think it's because of, and I think some have this to do with social media too, and Daniel, I want to chime in with your input on this too, because we kind of touched on this a little bit last week, is the thought that we're chasing productivity.
Yeah.
Right? And it seems that as we chase productivity, it's the new thing, the best thing, the bigger thing, the more thing.
And whatever I can do to get there.
That's what I'm going to do.
It's not about what's now. It's about what's next.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's always about what's next. What's the next shiny new thing? What's the next?
What is Amazon delivering to my house next? Right. And it happens just like this.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have to wait on it. I'll get it next day.
Yeah. You know what's crazy is I we needed some stuff for the football team, and so I just ordered it. And I literally got on there at noon and said, if you order it by 1, it'll be at your house by 8. And I'm thinking, well, it didn't even take a day, right? I mean, it's but our mindsets are starting to become that way, not just around Amazon, but about people and life and characteristics. So I wanted to bring this up really quick. In the book, right? In the book, Jump Off the Dock, right? That I'm in the middle of, halfway through, I think. But in the first chapter, one of the things that you just brought up. So in the first chapter, there's a little piece or a paragraph, what do you want to call it? It says, as a father, I was leading. And as leaders, whether you're guiding a team, a company, or a culture, the posture is the same. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't act first, right? But to become the steady bridge between fear and courage. And it goes on to say we must kneel beside those we lead and serve, not in a physical sense, but in our heart's posture toward those people that we're serving. So, as we start to wind down the conversation, those that are listening, if you had to give a charge, right, to, we're brothers, we're men of faith. We've had our struggles in terms of life and our own battles and things that we've seen and overcome and things that we're still dealing with, right? Because we're broken, imperfect people. But if you had to give a charge to listeners, the people who are listening, to say, hey, here's what I would say to you, and here's my advice to you, what would you say?
Be emotional available. You've got to be emotionally available. People's got to see you in your truest sense. When I was at the school district, and I just had this conversation yesterday, there was a particular guy that I worked with, a little nerdy, really kind of rubbed people the wrong way, but he really wasn't an abrasive person. It was really just, one, he's a little socially awkward, but what you seen was what you get, right? And when I talked to him, I just simply asked. I said, I don't know you and you don't know me, but as we go through this journey together, I need you to have my back. There's going to be some decisions that are made in which you're probably going to scratch your head and wonder, why is he saying that? Why is he doing that? I was like, but I need you to have my back, right? And all along the way, I made sure that I was transparent and emotionally available for him. Bad, good, ugly, it didn't matter. He saw me at my truest sense. And he never wavered. Never wavered. And then we got to a point right before I left. We got in the car, and for me to tell him, hey, I'm putting in my resignation, I'm leaving. And he broke down and just cried, sobbed, grown man. And for him to say, hey, I really appreciate it. I now understand what you meant, right?
Yeah.
Coupled with, when I got ready to leave, the amount of kind words that was said. We're going to miss you. You've been the best boss we've ever had. You've been the best supervisor we've ever had. Okay. Now, I'm not tooting my horn. I'm saying all that to say this. I really, truly, deeply tried to listen first and provide the guidance to these folks that I would want somebody to provide to me. And when I say that is, it doesn't matter if you truly care about somebody and you truly have their needs at heart. It doesn't matter if you have to constructively criticize them and put them on the right path, or you praise them. They're willing to go to battle because they know you're doing it from a place of love. He's doing it because he loves me. Maybe I need to take it to heart.
Right.
Maybe I need to do what he's saying do. Right? And I had a lot of those conversations with many of those employees before I left. We knew you meant what you said, and we knew that you had our back no matter what.
So the last line of chapter 1, this is what it says, and it makes me smile because, yeah, we are twins. A lot of people think we got the ESPN going on, right? But it says, leaders often are tempted to fix, guide, or direct first. But sometimes the most powerful thing a leader can say is nothing at all. Just listen, right? Because when we listen well, we don't just understand others, we help them understand themselves. And that's where transformation begins.
It goes back to the old adage where that saying says, if you give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime.
Yeah.
People has got to learn, okay, how do I do this? How do I face adversity? How do I get past it? And then if that particular problem happens again, they know how to take it on. Or they recognize it before it ever gets there.
Proactive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They recognize it. Oh, we don't need to do that. We've put us in this situation before, right? And now they're learning. And I used to tell people at the district all the time, I've seen a lot of times where leadership at the district only gave out information enough so someone could semi-effectively do their job because they were afraid, if this person knows what I know, now my job's at stake. I look at it totally opposite. If I'm not teaching you to take my job, am I really a good leader?
Right. Daniel, you would think you listened to the first episode already. But yeah.
There's been a lot of parallels, no doubt about it.
That's crazy.
But the idea is that we equip the people around us, and you work yourself out of a job.
Yeah.
Not because you're looking for your next thing. We're not looking for our next thing. But just because if I'm not giving the people around me enough resources to be successful on their own, then they're always going to be dependent on me, and then I'm going to always feel pressured to perform.
Yep.
In whatever capacity.
Chasing productivity again, right?
Yeah.
And I think ultimately, and I'll say this as we wrap up, when I hear what you're saying, I think the one thing that I hear out of the conversation with you today that really is kind of just is rattling in my brain is like, can we slow down? Can we slow down enough with our kids, those that are the closest, right? Our wives, for us, our wives, our kids, those that we serve, right? From a leadership standpoint, that we serve, not that they serve us. But can we slow down in a society that says don't slow down, right? In a society that says chase it, go, more, bigger, shiny, now, new, more money. Do we have the wherewithal as leaders? Because I think ultimately that's where effective leadership is going to ultimately come from, is those that have the wherewithal and the faith and the understanding, the conversations that we're having now, to stop and slow down, to listen, right? To listen to those that we serve and what they're facing and their heart posture, right? To build the social capital, build the trust that you've been talking about. And I think ultimately that's the anti, right? That's the antidote. That's the thing that we need to do as a society, especially as men sitting here and together today having this conversation, is how do we step into those conversations, slow down, listen to what's happening with our families and our friends, our teams that we're coaching, to hear the heart posture of what's really going on, to be able to step into that, to redirect the disposable mindsets of, hey, I'm not worth enough, but that they are loved, they find value, and their value is not in what they can do, but their value is who they are. And so I want to thank you again. I want to thank Daniel for being on the controls, and thank you for making it run back there, brother. I obviously want to thank my other half. I want to thank Travis for coming and spending.
I would be remiss if I didn't add this.
Oh, Lord.
Our whole conversation, if I didn't tie it back into school security, our whole conversation today ties back into what we've seen over the last few days.
Yeah.
Is it doesn't matter what kind of gadgets and gizmos you put in place. Okay? When it comes to true security, it's relationships and it's people. It's people.
Yeah.
If you build the trust of people around you, then you'll be able to deter and detect a heck of a lot faster because people trust you. People trust you. And I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the work you're doing and what you're trying to do and lead and impact. And I think if we don't get it on the table and discuss it, then we're really not facing our calling.
Yeah, that's a great point. I think this will definitely, those that listen, and hopefully, as this expands, the people that hear this and to bring it to the forefront, right? Because this is not something that's very prominent in discussion because it's not pretty, right? It's ugly. And I just thought it was a great conversation. The fact that you've brought this to light in the work that you do, and ultimately, we both in the roles that we serve, and now with me, stepping into the journey, right, to create leading impact and starting the Jump Off the Dock podcast, writing, the book Jump Off the Dock is really the counter. I'm trying to counter it, right? And it's funny that here we are, twin brothers, in the work that we do, and yet 42 years here we're sitting in the same work, right, trying to fight the same battle. So, thank you again for taking your time on this Friday to come hang out with me. We'll go get lunch in a little bit, and then we'll be back on the field together in a little while, right? So thank you again to Daniel. Thank you for Travis for being here on the Jump Off the Dock podcast. And here's what I would say to you that are listening: in everything that you do, in the things that you say, and the way that you interact with people, the way that you lead, I hope that you grab them by the hand and walk them to the edge so they'll jump. So thank you for listening to episode 2. We hope you have a great day out there wherever you are, and we will see you next week at episode 3.
Thanks for listening to Jump Off the Dock. Visit leadingimpact.org for blogs and leadership resources. For questions or pricing, email Trey at leadingimpact.org. We are ready to help you flip fear to courage.